Okay, lesson 3. We have here the plant subject, which is the third Yama. Asteya, non-stealing. So remember why Yamas are important. You need to go to the restroom?
No, I went to my textbook and my...
Okay. If you need to go to the restroom, you have to go to the 3rd floor. No. Like with violence and lying, stealing causes a disruption in the energy household. I told you the anecdote of my mom, always infallibly knowing when I would tell her a lie, and I didn't understand why. With stealing it's the same, in fact. And to understand it better, all you have to do is look at the work of people at the airport or policemen and women. Because what they do, without having yoga training, is detecting people whose energy is distorted. So out of 1,000 people, they let 990 people pass. And if you ask them what they are doing and how they are doing it, and how did they determine those 10 people that need to be picked out, they will tell you that they feel something is off. There is a disharmony, and those people are experienced, initially trained, but then by daily work, practice, they become experienced in detecting people's energy. You also subconsciously feel when people have a violent thought, they don't even speak or physically act. Even when they have a violent thought, you detect that subconsciously. When people lie, the same. Like my mom said, it's written on your forehead. When people are involved in stealing, in crime, dishonest behavior, you feel that too. You walk in the street, you go downtown, you can feel people from a distance, you can feel people you should go a little bit around, you should be careful with in your encounters, and there are people that you totally trust. You've done that since you were born without ever giving it a thought. And more importantly, without ever giving thought about your own behavior in that sense. What is theft? Theft is taking something without consent, without approval. And there are many forms, like with lying and violence, there are many forms of theft that we do not see as theft, that we've never considered as theft. And there's a lot to say about this, because technically, if you download a program on your computer that is illegal, that has been cloned or whatever, you don't pay for, it is a form of theft. It is somebody's possession that that person receives payment each time somebody takes that product. In the same way, when you go to the supermarket and you buy an apple, you take an apple, you have to pay for the apple. But there are many things to say about this. For example, to understand that properly, you have libraries, right? Libraries are an organized form of theft, if you look at it. Because I write a book. I spend months to write a book. Every time you buy my book, I receive 1001 intellectual property right. But the government takes my book and puts it in a library where hundreds of people take my book, read my book, and I don't receive my 100,000, my 1001 each time it is being read. Is that bad or is that wrong? There are many ways to justify this, aren't there? Because knowledge gives power. Knowledge empowers people. Knowledge emancipates people. Knowledge helps people to evolve, to grow, to develop. So it's not that simple, it is not that black and white to say, you know, it's theft, it shouldn't happen. So how do you deal with that? You deal with that by giving it your own thought and then decide whether it is right or wrong. In the case of a library, libraries have been established to share knowledge to as many people as possible, to elevate people, like education elevates people. So there are many good things about it. Of course, the author of the book, the particular book, does receive less money. But it's also possible with more people being informed about the works of this author, they become interested in other works of that author. So it works both ways. So it's not that simple. Theft, in another form, is withholding information from people. Last week we saw that lying is distorting information so that it benefits yourself. Spreading untruths, like you've seen the political games being played in the past couple of, especially past couple of months, but the past couple of years. Honorable people, well, honorable, just blatantly lying in front of camera where millions, if not billions of people are watching, shamelessly lying to benefit themselves. Lying and stealing in that sense, from that perspective, are very much linked with each other. Now, when I started teaching this course in the very beginning, in the late 1990s, early 2000s, discussing these issues, we had a very interesting situation. There was a guy in our class who said, at some point he said, "Ron, based on what you are teaching here, I have come to a very important conclusion." He said, this is the case. I have a colleague, a male colleague, who is single, by the way, but he is having affairs. He's having sexual affairs with 3 women, married women. So he said, based on what you said today, based on what you taught us today, I cannot be silent anymore. I'm seriously thinking about contacting the families of these women and tell them what is happening. If not, I'm violating not only the non-lying principle, but the non-stealing principle, because I'm withholding information that other people have a right to know. So I contemplated for a short moment on what was going on there, because I felt something in his energy also. The discomfort, there was a kind of anger, and so at some point I said to him, hey, listen, try first to understand what is going to result from your action. What will happen as a result of your action to inform families about the infidelity of the First, try to just think of what will happen as a result of you telling the truth. You will destroy those families. It will become your karma. Do you want to take that karma on your back? Of the children in those families being unhappy because their parents divorced? Do you want to be responsible for the couple to start fighting with each other because of what you have informed them about? Then not only that, I feel something else. Aren't you a little bit jealous of this guy having affairs with multiple women? It's just a possibility that I'm putting out there, but you have to be honest with yourself. Why exactly do you want to do this? You can use this as an excuse, but you're violating the previous two yamas if you take action in the way that you're now intending to do. And not only that, be totally honest with yourself. Don't you just envy this guy a little bit that you're not in a position? So we need to carefully contemplate the things that we are dealing with, looking at. And you do that exactly when you close your eyes in silence and you reflect on those issues. That is the huge value that meditation is bringing us. Whenever you are in trouble, whenever you are conflicted, or you don't know the answer, it's better for a moment to just do nothing and give yourself a little time to reflect on the issue, so that you have very clear for yourself the repercussions, the possible effect of what you are going to do or intend to do, but also about motive. Because when your motive is not clear, you violate the truthfulness principle. Because truthfulness does not only extend to other people, it very much extends to honesty to ourselves, truthfulness to ourselves. Why is this important? Sattva. To eliminate any possible conflict and disturbance from our lives. Because try to imagine if this guy had done what he intended to do. He would have had to deal with a lot of abuse, conflict, what have you. Maybe even dragged to court, being sued, and what have you. So these kind of things you don't oversee when you act in an impulse or an emotion, feeling indignant like he did, seem to do. But that is what you start to see when you just take a moment to reflect. You would say, in normal day language, I will sleep on it. That buys you some time. Count to 10, take a deep breath, etc. These are all ways to buy a little time to reflect on our inner workings. That's how you connect with your true motives, but it also allows you oversight over the complexity of the issue that you're dealing with before you create karma, conflict, discomfort, disturbance, disharmony. I mentioned in the handout something about ancient people, how people had, still these days you have people living in this way, in traditional ways, who have rituals to ask for permission to chop down a tree, or to hunt, to catch an animal and eat that animal to survive. They don't just chop down the tree or just catch the animal. They have a ritual in which they ask permission from the higher powers, nature, the universe, God, whatever it is that you want to call, to be allowed to use that product. It's a form of non-stealing. People who go to church, they pray before they have a meal. Praying before they're having a meal is, in fact, asking permission to take that product from nature to feed ourselves. Ancient people had these rituals because, like we talked about just before, they were still very conscious on an instinctive level of their connections with nature. We now live in a world where our intellect is so much developed, we destroy nature without thinking anything of it because we don't see the connections anymore. We don't see how life is impossible without the support from nature, and we're pushing it further and further to destruction. Excessive demand is a form of stealing, a form of theft. Excessive demand is something that we can perpetrate on ourselves. When you're very ambitious and you don't accept anything less than perfection and success from yourself. But that can also be perpetrated on other people. We do this, for example, with our pets. We want our pets to behave in certain ways, and if they don't, we punish them. Sometimes we hit them, scream at them, and they must do all kinds of things that are not natural for a pet to do. They will do it out of fear if you force them, but that is a form of theft. We do that with children too. I, as a yoga teacher, can also perpetrate theft on you when I expect a perfect pose from you and I push you beyond what is reasonably possible for you. I will give you an extreme example of a child that was robbed by her own father. I had my yoga classes between 2007 and 2015 in that huge gym next to 63 building. And one day a father came to class with his daughter. Pretty tall girl. And he didn't say anything, he just told his daughter to start practicing yoga with me. And then he left. And our class started. So, with everything we did, simple poses, not difficult poses, I saw her suffering. And it went like this. She was just standing there, just like a 10-year-old girl, 11 years old. I really felt sorry for this girl. First I tried to correct her, but all I could feel was she didn't want to be there. So she was there because her father wanted her to be there. So with time passing, I found out that her father is a physical education teacher. So he's into exercise, and he wants, first of all, he wanted to have a son. this girl was his first child. He wanted it to be a boy. Their second child, also a girl. So he was very kind of disappointed. But he projected his ambitions onto his girl, who he wanted to be a boy. And he said, determinedly, she is going to be the national representative of the Korean ski team. Skiing in the winter. Every winter for 3 months she would go to Pyeongchang or the countryside and spend 3 months in a training camp to become a ski professional. 국가대표. He wanted her to become an Olympic star. Totally disregarding her wishes. And he totally killed her with that. Everything is energy. Yeah? When you are motivated, when you are enthusiastic, when you are inspired, you are a big ball of energy sparkling. This girl, 11 years old, was a dead little bird. Her energy totally demolished. That is why every move hurt. Now something interesting happened. After class I would walk home after doing a little bit administration. So I walk out of the building and there she goes. School bag on her shoulders and she's going crossing the road, crossing the crosswalk on her way to school. You see the huge difference? So sad. When I understood what was happening, I told her, because she kept coming to class because her dad forced her to. I said, you know, you don't have to do anything. If you don't like it, just lie down or just, just do anything, as long as you don't disturb the class. So when I made her a little bit more comfortable, her presence there was also for her a little bit more bearable. And I guarantee you, she never became a 국가대표, she never became national representative. Because it was not, the energy wasn't there. She wanted to go to school, probably dig into her books or art class or whatever, but she was very happy at the thought of going to school. Theft. This is a very extreme thing. Not all parents will do that, of course, but just to make the picture clear, it is natural, of course, that you want your children to do well. You want your children to grow up and become well-developed, emotionally mature adults. Successful in life, if possible, even. But there is a difference between stimulating our children to grow up and projecting our frustrations upon them and basically destroying them with it. This girl is traumatized for the rest of her life. Sadly. This is theft. Now, what is the benefit of all this? In line with what we discussed last week, if you start paying attention and make corrections to our behavior based on these insights, the way that people perceive us changes. When you lie, or when you have violent thoughts, or when you have a tendency to be dishonest, that you cheat, because many people cheat in working relationships, even in families, people cheat each other. It is a form of theft. And when people feel that, they will stay away from you. When you need them, they will not be there for you. In work relationships, you're on your own because people don't want to work with you. People don't want to cooperate. with you or team up with you. When you are trustable, reliable, your energy changes and you attract people. Your trust leads to respect, and people will want to associate with you. People will want to work with you, do projects together. It totally changes your outlook into the future. Questions about Asteya? There are many people who think that yoga is about spirituality. So talking about material things is kind of taboo, especially in New Age circles. But the reality is that both the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali and the Hatha Yoga Pradipika, which both are the foundation of yoga, they both claim that if you practice, if you observe the principles that we are learning here, and in particular non-stealing, you will eventually also materially, not only spiritually, but also materially, become wealthy, rich, which is a bad word in New Age circles, but Patanjali and Svatmarama both did not think that is taboo, because it is a natural consequence of your bearing, a natural consequence of your increasing sattva and avoiding violating these principles is that you start to flourish, you start to thrive with time. I can only confirm that it works like that. Questions about Dharana, the first subject, or Asteya, stealing? Okay, then let's have a short break. Like I said, if you need to go to the restroom, you need to go to the third floor. Then we'll start with asana practice after that. Let's have a 5-minute break.